Good evening. I'm Terrie Curry with the Awesomism Book Club, and I have Fran Caproon with me this evening, and we're going to go over the chapters 1 and 2 of the book Awesomism. I'd like to introduce Fran. Now, Fran, can you say hi?
Hello, everybody. Good to be here tonight. I'm very excited to once again dig in and delve into this awesomism information that Suzy has so much provided for all of us.
And we have had one round of book club, and this is our second round, so we'll be going over some new things, and some of the things will be a little bit of a repeat. So, Fran, can you tell me first of all, or tell our audience first of all, what brought you to Awesomism?
Well, it was kind of a fascinating experience. A friend of mine had one of these little devices from Creative Space, and I noticed him wearing it, and I said, "Where did you get that?" And he said, "Well, Suzy Miller." And I was not sure what was that about, and I'm like, I need to know something about that. There's something about what you have in that device, or that something is calling me to it. So he gave me her name, and I went in and Googled her and said, okay, I got to be a part of this. I don't know why I have to be a part of it. It was like somebody was knocking at my door and they were screaming at me loudly to join. So that's how I got into it. I do not have children on the spectrum. I haven't worked in the field at all, but my heart is in that space. I'm part of the energetic imprint, I might say, of the energies that are what we call the spectrum of autism.
Okay, and currently we are level 3 practitioners. Currently there are 11 level 3 practitioners, and all of us come from different walks of life. Some of us have children on the spectrum, some don't, some are professionals. So we just really, our hearts are in this, and tonight we just want to really have a discussion with all of you, and we do have Q&A that you can send questions in, so we encourage that because we really would like it to be a two-way discussion. I'll tell you a little bit about my background. I'm here in Denver, Colorado, and I am like Fran. I have 2 children of my own, but not on the spectrum, and I had the opportunity to work with a child when I lived in Chicago who was a 2nd grader. The teacher just said, you know, work with this child because he's just really disrupting the room. He was so far advanced from the other children in reading and other skills that he was creating some problems. So I spent 9 months with this child and found out midway through that he had been diagnosed with autism. So this was my first experience, and I too connected with Suzy and became really aware that her program addressed a whole new way of looking at it. So anyway, so we'll go on to chapter 1. This chapter, Suzy starts and she tells a little bit about how this all began with a child named Riley. And one of the quotes that she says in chapter 1 that I found interesting that would be nice to discuss is she said she was really able to reach the children by building trust and focusing on what a child can do. And she says she did this by letting the steps be revealed or reveal themselves to her. So, Fran, what do you get from that? Like, what do you think she meant from that?
Well, because these children are part of a frequency of energies that are not just what we can see, hear, touch, feel. They're beyond the 5 human senses. So as we stop and open our awareness to what is maybe beyond what we can actually see, hear, feel, touch, we go into like a knowing space. And as we enter into those spaces, the kids actually can share with us. We can move beyond almost what we call our normal verbal communication, and we can go on to the subtle communications. You can call them whatever you want to make some people uncomfortable, but it broaches on telepathy if you want to go there. But what happens is it's a strong knowing that comes within of what's really going on. So once we become open and we allow the barriers or the borders, confinements, the rules, and everything that we have known to be, if we drop some of those, and I'm going for all of those, we're more open to gain insight and information and data flow that we could not even begin to comprehend.
Yes, and she goes on to say that even Riley's parents didn't really understand or know what she was doing. And she had tried some of the techniques that she'd always used before, but they just, that was really frustrating him. So she was really kind of led to, try something new and being led by him. So the second quote that I thought was interesting is she states that what she was doing with the children after Riley, even after Riley, was much less important than how she was being with them. That kind of expands on that whole idea. So can you comment on that?
Sure. Many of us, well, I'm going to use the example that she actually put in, that is part of the book, where she was talking about she was brought in she was having a problem with someone who's appeared to be aggressive, a young child. And the teacher was reading a book, as I recall it was the Polar Express, and as the story was unfolding, as the teacher was reading it, this child became more and more upset and seemed to be aggressive. So when it was all said and done, Suzy had a conversation with the teacher, and the conversation went on as the teacher said this was her favorite book, and Suzy asked her why she was so sad, and the teacher seemed kind of surprised that, what, being so sad? And then she paused and she went to, this was her son's favorite book. Her son's now an adult, but there had been someone of estranged, so she feels very sad. So what this child was actually touching into was that deep sadness that the mom had for her own son, the teacher. So when we go beyond into those subtle realms and we become authentic with who we are, so if I'm having a bad day, instead of putting on this big smiley face and pretending I'm having a good time, just to acknowledge I'm having a bad day today, putting it on the table, just owning it, and then things can shift, and my words and how I'm being are true to how I'm acting. So my energies as well as my physical presentations, they match. So there's not a discrepancy. I become coherent with how I'm feeling, and then the energies around me can be felt in that space instead of such a I guess, divide, as I would call it, or not a balance within.
Yes, and through the whole book, beginning with this chapter, there's that whole mood of really stepping into the unknown, really stepping into something, Suzy at the time was not comfortable with, and going through the program, sometimes you're not comfortable with what's occurring just because it's a space of the unknown, so really more can happen. So that's what I liked, is in the book, you really get glimpses of that when she herself was experiencing this whole new realm and having to stay open with not really knowing, and sometimes that can be comfortable but also exciting at the same time. So because she did say, like, as a professional, this is almost contrary to what you would always think in a job if you're really doing well. She says, my lack of concrete information about the topic of autism was later to serve me as one of the greatest assets in experiencing the full scope of autism. And that's almost like a paradox. Who would think that would contribute to the expertise, the not knowing? So you have a comment on that?
Yes, I do, because you know what, I made a comment before about the rules or how we play a game. We have predefined expectations as we play, but when you walk into something and you're unknown, you can become open. Say, I don't know what's going on here. I wonder what's possible. I wonder what's available. How would this look if I tried this? How would it look? This isn't working. So let's try something else. So it causes you to expand from where you were, where you are, and where you can be. So it does open up opportunities for exploration. And obviously, that's what this beginning parts of the book is, where Suzy said, this isn't working. these children are having behaviors. We're seeing what they can't do, but let's flip it and see what they can do.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that's like you're embracing just something. We have tried to put everyone in a mold, so it's for our safety and our protection. You know, if I can expect this behavior from this child, I feel safe, so it's all about me. But when we can actually look at the child and let them be who they are, then we can move into a different energetic space with them and have a new way to play. It may not look like any ways to play that we've been playing in the past, but we can develop new ways that are comfortable for both parties.
That kind of leads into the next idea or topic, and that is, as she was working with Riley, and following his lead, she then even got into, as she worked with him over time, to working with him at a distance, which is a whole new, would be a whole new step, not just having physical sessions with him. So she talks in the book about this, this very effective way of working with him at a distance. Can you comment on that, Fran?
Sure. I'm going to step back a little bit because this, to me, it fascinates me because Riley, when she first meets him, he's 4 years old and he's nonverbal, but he does have some repetitive type of behaviors. And in this particular scenario, she shares it's millennia, it's 1999, new millennia, and it was just a repetitive enunciation over and over again. But as she starts being open, he's almost coming to a different level where it's no longer about communication in the physical, it's a communication beyond the physical, the little nuances. So she describes having dreams, and when in fact these dreams are where Riley is communicating with her in the dream space and sharing information. And the comments are like, master, who's the master here? Is it the 4-year-old child, or is it Suzy, or is it both of them together being masters in what they can do and how it can evolve? And so this other way is a way of that knowing that Suzy was developing, and that you, Terrie, myself, we have learned that. We have developed that knowing, and you can call it telepathy, or you can talk, etheric communication, but meeting them where they are so that the barriers of communication of the physical realm are broken down. So new information can come in that's shared from this 4-year-old Riley. So he was able to touch her in that respect, and then her knowing became strong, and her confidence in understanding where he was leading her became such that she was able to no longer need to be in the physical realm with him, and that she could communicate with him and others not in person. And that's how, you could call it whatever you want, but getting into those realms of telepathy or of an energetic nature.
Right. And even though that feels strange in the beginning, I'm sure it did for Suzy, and each person that becomes involved with these children and starts noticing that they have those capacities. What really, my experience was, and what really happens is that you don't really exactly know in a logical or linear manner what's going on, but you see the effect that it's having on the child and even yourself in the changes that take place as the child connects, eye contact improves, or they become more present and you become more present, and you really do see actual physical and everyday occurrences that keep you moving in that direction. That was my experience anyway. So.
Absolutely. And it's exciting because, once again, just like we're not alike, we have some similarities, but these children each will have their own ways of communicating and sharing information. And Riley's is one type of an example, but each child brings their own unique piece of the puzzle, just like we each bring our own unique piece of the puzzle. And that's what I like so much about it, is that for me, I see the differences only in that we are unique and we all are bringing our own energetic imprint to where we are. And when we can bring this communication with these children and have them be more present and be who they wanted to be here, doesn't mean they're meant to fit in. That's not what they have decided to do. They will be able to function and bring their piece of the puzzle here and now, but with more clarity for them and for their families and educators or those who are working with them in the community. Because it's not just one person, it's a group of us. It's a collective that comes together, just like it's the collective energies of these kids, of this higher vibrational frequency. It's no different. It's all of us coming together and working those energies together to support and enhance our love of humanity.
Right. Yeah, and the next point kind of leads into chapter 2, because she does finish chapter 1 with some conversation about the fear, the embarrassment, the guilt that a lot of parents have when they have a child on the spectrum, because it's they're picking up judgment from outside. Sometimes they have doubts whether they're a good parent, which is something all parents go through, but in their case, oftentimes it's more intense. And so this awesomism, what she experienced with Riley and what we have learned, is it's just a whole new way, whole new perception about this. But as far as like the American Medical Association and that model, she briefly touches upon how that's a whole different way of looking at it, and that Awesomism kind of gives the support for people to look at it in an alternative way. So I guess I would ask you, Fran, to comment on how does a parent, or in your experiences with all of this, how does a parent go forward and have the option of not necessarily going just with the traditional approach or an AMA type approach?
Well, first off, I have to commend.
And in that, we're really talking about basically pharmaceuticals and vaccinations as two big points of controversy.
Right. I would like to commend anyone who is stepping outside their comfort level, because I have to say that society has made it very difficult to wiggle out of norm. All of us trying to wiggle out what we would be considered appropriate for that child or appropriate medically for that child. So first off is to get some support for your own self, the parent or the family members, to get support outside of what they feel, and to stick with their knowing. If they know that their child is having an adverse response to something, know your knowing. Just because what the medical community is sharing is not the whole picture. And this book is standing up and saying, so look beyond everything that you've ever known in a body on a planet. So to question everything, and as you see, and my understanding is these children are extremely sensitive. So what a neurotypical type of child could tolerate regarding food, pesticides, environmental exposures, as well as medicines, pharmaceuticals, and immunizations. It's tough on a neurotypical child to get through these. So if you have an energetically sensitive child, of course it's going to be more for their system to get through. So I would say stick with what you know. And if you're feeling that pressure from the medical, then it's probably not a good thing. That pressure is something that is your knowing to say, hey, wait a minute, there has to be a better way. Or what other way can I possibly approach this? And I know that Big Pharma, there are some good medications out there, and I'm not a basher of medications because they have their place in certain arenas. But overall, you have to look at each individual case and pick it apart for yourself, and don't go by what other people are saying. You're going to have to do your investigation for yourself and feel what's right for you.
Right. And basically we're talking about the medical model is really saying that autism is a neurologically based disorder that causes significant difficulty in the area of communication, behavior, socialization, and that it's not curable. And what Suzy found and conveys in the book is that this is just a whole different paradigm. She sees it as these children are here to make a big change and really present that choice for humanity to make a change, also. So the last point that I'd like to bring up or a point she made in this chapter, the second chapter, is that really kind of discussing this whole idea of what is this higher frequency of energy the children are bringing. And at one point, there were 33% of one classroom in 2001 that had ADD and ADHD when it was measured through some method. And then this population plateaued, and autism started to rise at that point. And so Suzy is saying that really those children with ADD and ADHD were setting a vibrational tone for an even higher frequency of children to come in to really change the planet. So, and at that point there was an increase in toxins and pharmaceuticals and food pollutants and vaccines. And so there's this whole case of that making it all the more difficult for all of these children to be here. So do you have any comment on that? That kind of struck me.
Yeah, it's not funny, but it makes me laugh, because what we all want to do is control our environment. So when we have these scenarios where we feel out of control, such as ADD, ADHD, the children's behaviors are such that the classroom is no longer comfortable, and we're like, what can I throw at this child to fix this? I want to fix this because I want my classroom to be such a way to where we can move through my day and I can meet my agenda. So what these kids have done is they come in, and yes, pharmaceuticals have been created to squelch those behaviors, also squelch that child's creativity and their focus. It's really just what they're choosing to focus on rather than a lack of focus. But those children who were first coming through, there were only a few ADD, ADHD children coming through. So they were setting the stage for change. And it got to a point, at some point, I believe in the book mentioned, like you said, 33% in a classroom were ADHD. And at some point, Suzy's comment was, well, when they reach 50%, something's got to change. But what happened there is that they say, oh, here's a problem, let's fix it, let's throw a chemical, a drug, let's look at diet, let's see how we can change these children's behaviors, rather than trying to see a model that would augment the strengths of these children. So as the children started to plateau, then we started seeing little pops of autism come in. They started off slowly. And then the ADD, ADHD had plateaued, and autism has soared forward. So once again, the energetic shifts. So these autistic spectrum children are highly vibrationally sensitive, more so than the ADD, ADHD, but they're all on a spectrum of higher vibrational frequencies. So that's the place where we're playing at this point. There has been an increase to where every time we look at it, the numbers, I saw something recently, 1 in 28 children are coming through. I think it was a third grade classroom. So we have really shifted the energetic, and it's based on what Suzy was talking about, the energetic flow. So we are creating within our communities a higher vibrational living. So these kids are coming in, setting the tone, holding a vibration, and we're just rising up to meet it.
Great. Well, that really concludes all my comments and questions for both chapters, and we are going to continue this these book club sessions through chapters 1 through 10. Next time we will cover chapters 3 and 4, and the rest of the book club sessions will be every Monday night, or the first 3 Mondays in August, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we will go ahead and send out notices on that. But like we say, we would really love to have questions or discussion by you. You can send any questions you might have that you want discussed in the next session in August to tcurry29@gmail.com. So we'll have each week different practitioners, 1 or 2 of them, and like I said, some of them do have children, and all of us are really eager to have a discussion about all this and really hear what all of you have to say. So that's it for me. How about you, Fran? Is that it?
I'm just excited to be here. I was looking at the timeline. I just wanted to comment. I'm coming up on my 2nd year on joining this team of wonderful, energetic beings, and I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to delve in more and more and become a part of this, more and more of this community.
Yeah, it's really a great community. Suzy's really started something. Suzy and Riley really did start something here, and it's been blossoming, and it's great to be a part of it. So, okay, well, thank you so much, everyone, and we will see you next time, hopefully. Good night.
Good night.